First launched in 2009 as a digital currency, Bitcoin has since become more mainstream in recent years. In response to the risk of economic collapse due to COVID-19, governments around the world have injected global markets with money created by central banks in order to boost spending and help save the economy. A byproduct of this effect is that increasing the supply of money erodes its value and pushes people to look for inflation-resistant assets to hold onto. In this climate, Bitcoin has provided options against inflation and poor returns, and according to recent data, was one of the best performing assets of 2020. To discuss this and explore expectations for 2021, co-founder and CEO of VALR, Farzam Ehsani, joins us online. Farzam, thanks for your time and thank you so much for joining us on Weekend Dawn. I remember people talking about Bitcoin back in 2017 when it was doing quite well, and I thought it sort of fizzled away. Is Bitcoin still quite a thing? Are people looking at it as an investment haven at the moment?
Absolutely. Actually, a lot has progressed since 2017. As you know, there was a lot of retail hype in 2017, and everybody was talking about Bitcoin over the dinner table, and it got to a height of $20,000 at the time. And then subsequently, a year after that, it fell down about 85% to $3,000 mark. But since then, it's been climbing steadily, and actually recently, it's gone through the all-time high of $20,000 to $40,000 right now. So right now, we're talking about in Rand terms, the price is about 639,000 Rand for one Bitcoin. Now, it's important to note that you can buy a very small fraction of a Bitcoin. So it's not about buying an entire Bitcoin for that amount. And if you look at the returns, they have been astounding recently. So we're talking about, over the past year, a 383% return, and over the past month alone, 125% return. So, Jacob, I think it's important to understand what's going on here. And, the big thing that's changed is that recently, institutions, hedge fund managers, people on Wall Street have been looking to Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation. They've looked at the backdrop of what's happening with coronavirus. They've looked at this monetary stimuluses that are taking place across the world from central banks everywhere. And they've said, you know what, we think that there's probably a better chance of preserving our value in Bitcoin. And so you have companies like MicroStrategy. It's a NASDAQ listed company that has bought to the tune of $1.3 billion to hold on their balance sheet. And the reason they've said that they're doing this is that they believe that Bitcoin has the potential to hold value better than the US dollar itself.
So,
and you have hedge funds.
Sorry to butt in there. Just want to get an idea or a sense of what pushes the value up of Bitcoin. What are the drivers? Economic factors that you mentioned earlier was COVID-19. But for instance, Trump supporters storming Capitol Hill a few days ago. Does that affect the price of Bitcoin as well?
It's a very good question. So I think overall, the drivers are really supply and demand, as with any other asset. As far as supply is concerned, supply is very limited. It's the digital scarce asset. That's why people view it as something that is very valuable. But the supply really comes from retail customers and institutions. And when they look at all assets and money, I should say, that is not scarce. If you look at the US Federal Reserve, that's the central bank of the United States, they have printed to the tune of $3 trillion over the past year. Said another way, 25% of all US dollars in existence ever have come into existence in the past year. And as anybody that understands economics, when something is not scarce, it cannot hold monetary value. So we're looking at people that are saying, listen, the current financial system is risky. There are risks to our current political systems, as you mentioned, with the happenings of Capitol Hill recently. And so many hedge fund managers as well are allocating a proportion of their funds, 1% to 2%, they've come out to say, to Bitcoin at the moment. Not all, but some of the big ones like Paul Tudor Jones, Stanley Druckenmiller, and the likes.
So how long can we expect this upward trajectory to last? Because all good things do come to an end, right?
100%. So if anybody promises you that Bitcoin is going to continue going up and these returns are going to happen indefinitely and it's guaranteed, that is a lie. Bitcoin will continue to be volatile, and there's a very good chance that there will be a pullback. However, I think it's also important to note that if you look at some of the fundamentals about what Bitcoin is valued at right now compared to another asset class like gold, Bitcoin right now is only valued at about 750 billion US dollars. Gold, on the other hand, is valued at about 10 to 12 trillion US dollars. So if the value of Bitcoin were to become at least the value of gold, then you're looking at a price per Bitcoin of about 500,000 US dollars. That's more than 10x from here. So when you hear things like that, one could get, very dazzled. But one has to be very careful, as I said. The price could pull back. It could pull back for a long time, for years. And so any investors that are looking at this, both professional, institutional, and retail, need to understand that this isn't for the faint-hearted. This is not a guaranteed or sure bet. This is a view that over time, people will migrate to Bitcoin, but there will continue to be a lot of volatility, and there are no guarantees.
Now, in terms of what Bitcoin compares to when it comes to other cryptocurrencies, are other cryptocurrencies also seeing a similar trajectory where they're gaining more value?
It's a very good question. So Bitcoin accounts for about 68% of all the value of cryptocurrencies, so about 2/3 of the value of all cryptocurrencies. The second largest cryptocurrency is called Ethereum. Now, Ethereum has actually had a better return than Bitcoin over the past year. So it's gone from about 2,000 Rand during the year to it just hit 20,000 Rand last night. So I think the asset class overall is being looked at as something that's very appealing, as a hedge against inflation, as a hedge against the traditional financial system. But still, Bitcoin remains king in the cryptocurrency world, and still, as I said, is the majority of the value of all cryptocurrencies.
So, Farzam, just to wrap things up, you would still advise people who are looking at finding different methods of investing to go for the cryptocurrency route or the Bitcoin route?
So first of all, I'm not a financial advisor, so I really don't advise anyone to do anything. But what I will say is that if you have some disposable income, that means some money that you don't need over the next week, month, year, or even 2 years, and some money that you don't mind losing, it would be unwise not to try to see what this asset class is all about, invest a little bit, and try to pay attention to what's driving it. But if anybody needs money that they are counting on for school fees, for healthcare, for their daily expenses, Bitcoin is, in my opinion, too volatile right now to risk that. But if you do have some investable income, then I think it would be silly not to put at least a portion of it into this asset class.
All right, Farzam, thank you for your time. The co-founder and CEO of VALR, Farzam Ehsani, chatting to us about the performance of Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency and its performance expectations ahead of the year 2021. Bitcoin starting the year on a high, performing quite well in 2020, a high versus how much it was worth back in 2019. The last time it was that high was in 2017. So it seems as though Bitcoin is doing quite well at the moment, especially with the COVID-19 climate.